For the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, you've been the chief operating officer of Elev, a platform that facilitates finding housing for students.
Yes, sir.
What was the initial story behind it?
So Elev started well it started like way before 4 years ago. It was like essentially like a personal experience that I went through when I moved here for my studies at the U of A. I remember I think yeah. So at first I wanted to live on campus. Okay. But then I somehow managed to miss the deadline to apply for to live on residence. And so I was like, oh snap, I have to leave. I have to find another place like to stay that's like within the vicinities of campus. But the good thing that also happened, it was like almost like a blessing in disguise. Because although I missed the deadline to apply for residence, I didn't realize how expensive living on campus actually was until like later on. But essentially when that happened, I remember like I think it was like from like February or March when I got accepted until August 22nd. Every day I woke up and I was on all the different platforms. So Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, Price Faster, you name them. I was just there looking for a place to stay off campus. And it was like super challenging, and pretty stressful as well because like I have to go I also had to apply for the visa, right? To essentially like when the visa they asked you for like a place, a residence, and all that stuff. Thank God for the university. Like I was able to like use the university as a place to stay. But had it not been there, like I had to like essentially like go through the whole process of looking for a place to stay, talking to like landlords from overseas. So like imagine like as a landlord, you're chilling here in Edmonton and you have international students that's somewhere in Tanzania reaching out to you and be like, oh, by the way, I like a place, I want to live there. 9 out of 10 people said no because because they were like, you're not here, you need to come and check out the place. And two, it's like, well, what guarantees us that like you're actually gonna move here and actually stay in this place? Like I can't hold the place for you until you come here. So I went through that, and then even when I came here, like I had to like even like look for a place. Like I stayed at a hotel for a couple of days while I was looking for a place to stay off campus, and like even then it was a little bit challenging as well to find a place. And even when I found a place, everything around it was also like really challenging in the sense of, like it was like a new culture, new place, my first time away from my family, and so like everything was just brand new. And I was like what 17, and so like I was sort of like expected to like know everything and know my way around everything, which wasn't obvious. And like that personal challenge that I went through, the personal struggle that I went through, stuff like fueled my motivation to self like find a better way, find a new solution. Like there had to be a better way of doing things. And so like me and my other co-founders stuff like came together and they figured, you know what, there is a problem. We could potentially find a solution. So let's work together to build a lab.
And how old were you at that time?
At that time, I would say like 19 going 20. Whoa, that's wild. Yeah, 19 going 20. That's how I was at the time. Yeah.
So you were in your second year.
Yeah. I remember it was my second year. I think my second year going to my third. And at that moment, I was also looking for like a co-op. So it was when I was like looking for like an internship, and I was also working part-time and I had school. And I remember because like that's when Kevin actually approached me. And how it happened was that like I had a mutual friend who was actually working on this project as well. And he's actually was showing me like the numbers, like, oh yeah, by the way, me and this guy were sort of like working on this project together, like doing this thing and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, but can I see the numbers? So like he showed me like a spreadsheet. That shows some numbers. So I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. What if you tried this and you did that? Oh, what about this regression? What about that? So I was asking a lot of questions on the numbers because I was pretty interested. And so like he was like, oh, you know what? You should talk to my friend. And that friend was Kevin. And Kevin is the other, sorry, co-founder. Yeah, Kevin is the other co-founder. Met with him, we talked about it, we talked, discussed, and then from there, I sort of like joined the project, and I was just looking after the numbers, and then from there, the rest was just history.
Okay, what were the numbers? What were you looking at?
So numbers that we're looking at is like essentially like the potential of the idea, like projections and stuff like some initial research that were done. But like from my perspective, because I'm a numbers person, it's like I was like, oh, this looks good, but there's some things that I'm missing. And like if you made like a few tweaks here, essentially like, okay, what if instead of just focusing on Edmonton, right? What if we just expanded across Alberta and across Canada, and we looked at, okay, what about the situations for people coming from overseas? Because like I came from overseas and I had like, this background from overseas. Like, okay, what if we like build something that would also help them? What would those numbers look like? And so those are the things the question that we're asking, even like assumptions behind the numbers as well. And then from there, like sort of like led into some conversations that led into me joining, and then now I'm stuff like the COO now.
Okay, let's turn to the business side of things. Sorry.
All right.
Could you please explain the business model behind Elev? What's the plan to generate revenue for the short term? And what's also the plan to keep it sustainable for the long term?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So business model, the way it works is we charge a percentage of the rent per month. And so with Elev, we essentially took a holistic approach when building on the platform and making sure that it doesn't just touch on like housing, but like everything around housing and everything around living off campus as a student. And so what I mean by that is that we know that when it comes to looking for a place, because we went through it, there's like the whole process of like, okay, you go on the platform and you look for the property, and then you get in touch with the landlord. So you could either book a viewing or you can book an application. And then after that, you could essentially, if you like it, the next step is to sign a lease and then to pay the rent. Now we streamline the whole process onto the platform so that like as a student, it's pretty much like a one-stop shop. So you find a place, you book the viewing, it's an application, sign the lease, pay the rent, and then everything that comes after that. And so essentially what we're doing is so that the price that we charge is essentially um like incorporates all the different aspects. And same thing as well for the landlord, right? Because as a landlord, like there are many things that go into the picture, right? Like listing your property, making sure the property is well kept, making sure that you find the right tenant, making sure that the rent is paid. Like that's very important. Making sure that like rent is paid is super important. And so being able to like manage all of this into one app as well for students is definitely something that's super, super important. And so in terms of like business plan, charge a percentage of the fee per month. Essentially, whenever the landlord lists the property, whatever the student sees is whatever is what they pay. And same thing as well for the landlord, whatever they post, whenever they list, the fee that they see is what they pay, and the amount that they see is what they receive. So like everything is super transparent from the get go. Now in terms of the short term. Right now our strategy has been because this is sort of like a marketplace and it requires volume to take off. Right now we're sort of like funding it from pitch competitions, grants, uh, and like of course sweat equity, so like our own little monies that we have that can put together to keep the business running. But in terms of long term business plan, there are many. The great thing about this platform is that because it's a marketplace, once you get that volume, that essentially like that magic number that allows you to break even, any number that goes over it is essentially profit, right? So then that's actually where we sort of like trying to go. Now, the next thing is there are many verticals that we can explore, right? So, like for example, once you move into a place, right, the next thing that you need to do is get a phone. Okay, what if you work with a essentially like a phone, like a internet provider or like a TELUS or whatever. And essentially, like for every student that comes through that we get you through Elev, there is a fee that comes into it. Same thing as well with the credit card, because you need to like get a debit or credit card or whatever. And then like essentially like having all those different pieces incorporated into the platform to make it easier for students, and of course have like another way to generate revenue. Another thing that we're also working on is essentially the whole aspect of helping the student build a credit score as well through the rent payments. Now, one thing that we know is that here in Canada, I guess even in North America, like credit is something that's super important. Like where I'm from, we don't do credit. Like that's something that when I came in, it was something pretty new to me as well. Like, we don't really do credit, but it's something really important, and like it allows you to tap into different opportunities. So, like for example, like a mortgage or like a car loan or like even a loan in general. And having good credit is super important. And so, what if you could bank on your ability on your rent payments to sort of like help you build that credit score. And as a student, if you're living off campus, that's at least 2 years, right, of you building your credit score just by paying your rent on time. And so sort of like exploring that the avenue and seeing how we can sort of like use that as a way to like support students. And of course, make some money along the way, but most importantly, like help students make sure that they get the most out of the experience living off campus.